Over 1.8 million Americans have been out of work for at least 6 months. They're not lazy, they're not unqualified, and the fact that they can't find jobs tells us something alarming about where the economy is actually headed. This isn't just a statistic that lives in a government report. If you have a job right now, this affects your next raise, your next negotiation, your next promotion. When 1.8 million qualified people are competing for the same openings you are, your employer knows it. That leverage has shifted, quietly, steadily, and most people haven't noticed yet. Psychologists who study job loss rank it alongside the death of a close family member as one of the most psychologically devastating experiences a person can go through. Not a financial setback, a health crisis. And economists have a rule of thumb. Every 1% rise in unemployment reduces GDP by 3%. First, the definition, because it matters more than people realize. Short-term unemployment is losing your job and finding a new one within a few weeks or months. The economy absorbs it, you absorb it, and life moves on. Long-term unemployment is something different. It's officially defined as being out of work for 27 weeks or more, over 6 months. And right now, that group accounts for roughly 1 in 4 of all unemployed Americans. Long-term unemployment has risen about 55% since 2023 and 45% since 2019. That's not a blip, that's a structural shift. Here's why economists pay close attention to this specific number. Short-term unemployment can spike during a recession and recover quickly. Long-term unemployment is a different signal entirely. When more people are taking 6 months or longer to find work, it means the labor market itself has changed. Not temporarily, but in its fundamental architecture. The barrier to entry has gone up, and it's not coming back down on its own. Here's the number most people never see. The U.S. nonfarm payroll hiring rate stood at 3.5% in March 2026. That number has been trending downward since 2021, meaning companies have been consistently adding workers at a slower and slower rate, year after year, even during periods when the headline unemployment rate looked fine. A low fire rate and a low hire rate together. That's a frozen labor market, not a healthy one. So what's actually causing this? 2 forces working simultaneously. The first is interest rates. When borrowing costs are high, companies pull back on expansion. They don't open new offices. They don't launch new divisions. They don't add headcount they aren't certain they'll need. Hiring freezes feel fiscally responsible when credit is expensive, and they've been in place at many companies since 2022. The second is artificial intelligence. This one is more uncomfortable to say plainly, but it's real. AI tools are handling tasks that would have previously required an additional hire: content, analysis, customer support, coding, scheduling. Companies aren't eliminating entire departments overnight, but they are deferring the next hire, letting attrition reduce headcount rather than backfilling, doing more with the same number of people. The result? Fewer openings, more applicants per opening, longer searches, more rejections, and a growing cohort of qualified, experienced people who have been in the market for 6 months, then 9, then 12, and still waiting. Let's make this tangible. Imagine you're a mid-career marketing manager, solid resume, 10 years of experience. You get laid off in October. You have a network, you refresh the resume, reach out to connections, apply broadly. By January, nothing. By March, nothing. You've submitted over 100 applications, heard back from maybe 20, been ghosted on 80, interviewed a handful of times, no offer. At that point, it's not a job search problem, it's a market structure problem. Or think about what this looks like on the employer's side. 1 open position, 400 applicants. The HR team is buried. Qualified people fall through the cracks not because they're inadequate, but because the system is overwhelmed. More people competing for fewer slots. That's the definition of a buyer's market, and right now, employers are the buyers. Here's what the statistics don't fully capture. Research tracking workers over a decade found that long-term unemployed workers earned about 32% less than their peers, who were never displaced even 10 years later. For short-term unemployed workers, that gap was only 9%. 6 months of unemployment doesn't just cost you 6 months of income. It permanently compresses your earnings trajectory. Then there's the psychological cost. Constant rejection erodes confidence in ways that are hard to fully explain until you've lived it. Applying daily, being ghosted, interviewed, and then hearing nothing. After months of that, it's not just discouraging, it's identity dissolving. For people who have always defined themselves by their professional competence, job loss has been linked to worsening physical health, social withdrawal, and lasting depression. These are not soft outcomes. They show up in life expectancy data. Here's what this does to everyone else, including people who still have jobs. When more people are competing for fewer openings, employers have leverage. Year-over-year wage growth has dropped significantly from its 2022 highs. Your paycheck is still growing, just more slowly than inflation has been running. In real terms, many workers are moving backwards. Communities with sustained high long-term unemployment consistently show higher rates of crime and social instability. That's not a moral judgment, it's a documented pattern. When people lose not just income, but identity, structure, and purpose for extended periods, communities absorb that stress in visible ways. The intergenerational effect is particularly striking. Children who grow up in households with long-term parental unemployment show measurably worse mental health outcomes in adulthood. Decades later, long after their parent found work again, the trauma of financial instability in childhood isn't processed and released, it compounds. One person's 6-month job search isn't contained to that person, it radiates outward, and then there's the macro consequence that closes the loop. Consumer spending accounts for nearly 70% of America's GDP. When 1.8 million people are out of work for 6 months or longer, they are not spending at normal rates. They're spending carefully, conservatively, defensively. That suppression ripples through retail, restaurants, travel, housing, services, every sector that depends on people feeling financially secure enough to spend. The rule of thumb, a 1 percentage point rise in unemployment is associated with a 3% reduction in GDP. We're not talking about a slow jobs market as a minor inconvenience. We're talking about a feedback loop where less hiring leads to less spending, which leads to less growth, which leads to less hiring. The loop is already running. Here's the question that doesn't get asked often enough. If the hiring rate has been declining steadily since 2021, through a period when headlines described a strong labor market, what does that tell us about the gap between economic indicators and economic reality? GDP can grow while fewer people get hired. Unemployment can look stable while the long-term unemployed pile up. The numbers aren't lying. They're just measuring the wrong things for the people who matter most. Long-term unemployment isn't a footnote. It's a leading indicator, and it's pointing in one direction.